All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel, and this is episode 24 of the Engineering Success Podcast. We have a fun docket of information to go through and questions and topics to talk about in this episode. But arguably one of the most important segments and elements of the podcast is recognizing those who support the podcast. So a major shout out to John Ott, our top tier supporter. Join John Ott by contributing to the podcast at $10 a month, and you'll get a shout out in every single episode. If you want to be featured on the podcast in the form of a question, write in your questions to engring.success@gmail.com. Remember to give your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. If it's a nice and friendly review, I'll make sure to read it out on the podcast. And make sure you follow the podcast, maybe subscribe or rate it however you can on your podcast provider. And subscribe on YouTube, engage. The best way that you can help with the podcast is obviously by supporting it with financial support, which I appreciate that, but also by commenting and engaging and sharing. Comments on YouTube are super helpful for engagement. Speaking of YouTube, we have a new YouTube subscribers, STREETS DeGrand. Shout out to Streets DeGrand. And other pending things that are very exciting that I wanted to tell you guys about is we have an interview scheduled. We don't have a date, and I haven't sent them their run of show yet because it's just been absolutely chaotic for me personally lately. But we have a interview pending. Yep, that's right. And you might be wondering, Daniel, what is going on in your life that is so crazy? Well, today is July 17th, 2022. A month ago, on June 18th, I got married. And since then, I've been on my honeymoon. And Maddie and I are actually prepping for a out-of-state move. So we're actually relocating for my work to New Orleans. So if any of you guys are from New Orleans or have lived in New Orleans and you have any advice, as I'm adjusting the boom arm of my microphone again because it won't stop moving. It's ridiculous. Hey, donate to the podcast and I'll get a better boom arm. That would be nice. My gosh, it won't stop moving. Ugh. Come on. This is insane. Okay, what is moving on me? Right, this is moving, which is because this is moving. See, guys, this is the beauty of going live. I knew that I wasn't ready for it, and I was going to try it anyways, but that's the result for you. Some crappy audio from me moving all this stuff around, and a distracted start to the podcast. But yeah, anyways, point is, chaos has been going on, and so that's why it's been about a month since the last episode of the podcast. I apologize, but I appreciate your continued listenership and your support, and yeah, we'll be moving in the next couple weeks, so this will be the last episode of the podcast I filmed from San Antonio, and then we'll break down the setup, and we'll pack it all up, and then the next episode of the podcast will be filmed in New Orleans, likely. That's the plan, at least. All right, well, let's get right into it. Our recurring segment, it's by popular demand, is This Week in LinkedIn Lunatics. So let me pull up this first one for you guys. All right. A LinkedIn lunatic messaged me this. Didn't know LinkedIn was a dating app now. And as you can see, it was posted a month ago because that's whenever I started prepping this episode. So that's where I'm at right now. It's great to connect with you. I hope you are well. You are pretty. You are incredible, formidable, and charming. I really liked your profile picture. She is attractive, but frankly, beauty and elegance are your assets. I inform you that I wish to enter into a romantic relationship with you. I would like to create my life with you. I am, insert name, 26 years old from Morocco. I work as a human resources manager. Please understand my message is to a very beautiful princess that I have never seen a girl like her smiling and competent. And I apologize for having contacted a professional site, but I have no choice. Good day. And they crossed out the name, but then they left the name in here, so good job. But, so this is the thing that, that happens on Facebook, right? Where people hit up people from whatever country, from another country, and I think it might be tied to a romance scam. I mean, not saying that all the people that end up on this show are in romance scams, but I frequently watch a TV show called 90 Day Fiancé. It's my favorite TV show. And what I've noticed is that a lot of these relationships are, these men or women, usually I won't make any generalizations, but they get contacted on Facebook, and then, this person is likely just shotgun firing off contacts of different people on Facebook, hoping one of them hits. And it seems like it's extended to LinkedIn. So, interesting thing to be aware of is that the romance, I'm guessing that this is likely a romance scam. It has made its way not only from Facebook, but to LinkedIn. So it's just another way that LinkedIn is becoming Facebook. Also, I just want to point something out to you guys. I don't have a way to doodle on this screen, but if I did, I would. I work as a human resources manager. I feel like a human resources manager would know that it's not appropriate to contact somebody on a professional website about a romantic interest, whether it's real or not. So that's interesting. But yeah, I didn't know LinkedIn was a dating app now. No, this is just another example of how LinkedIn is becoming Facebook. The scams that are on Facebook are finding their way to LinkedIn, just like all of the personal social media TMI posts that are already on Facebook are starting to make their way over to LinkedIn. So, yep, it's unfortunate that people are turning LinkedIn into Facebook, but that is the reality that we're living in now, at least for many people. So that is interesting. I will rank that as, yes, that is a LinkedIn lunatic. All right, our next LinkedIn lunatic is butthurt because his school made a happy Pride Month post. Again, June was Pride Month. It's July. I prepped this episode of the podcast a month ago. Hopefully it wasn't exactly a month ago, because exactly a month ago was my rehearsal dinner. It was the day before my wedding, so that would be kind of embarrassing if the day before my wedding I was prepping an Engineering Success podcast episode, but maybe that's just how dedicated I am. All right. As a U of H grad, class of 1974, I am ashamed my school has chosen to embrace a deviant life choice. Would you celebrate my group with a month of fawning as you do for homosexuals and others confused about their gender? My group, white, straight, male, over 40, who paid entire cost of education without a loan, grant, or scholarship. No, I wasn't rich, and my parents did not pay my way. I worked my way through over 11 years, just like a lot of my friends. I feel like that's like... I feel like that just pulls it all into one whole thing. It's great that different schools and companies are celebrating Pride Month and supporting their employees and who they are. And, it's just interesting to me that this person has decided to take this stance in general and also take it to LinkedIn. And then my group, white, straight, male, over 40, who paid entire cost of education without a loan, grant, or scholarship. This post contains a lot of buzzwords that people use to minimize the situations of others, and it's a very common thing that you see people say, I paid my way through school and without loans, grant, or scholarship, and you weren't rich, and that was your personal struggle. But just because you had a personal struggle doesn't necessarily mean that you can diminish the situations that others are in. Everybody is going through their own things, and everybody has their own stuff. So why I just don't understand why people get so hurt to see schools and employers and stuff like that going out of their way to make people that are in marginalized groups feel recognized and more comfortable, because I mean it doesn't make any sense to me. Like nobody's really saying anything negative about this person's group. The company is just recognizing another group, and just because you're recognizing another group doesn't mean they're not, not valuing you. Like I don't understand why this person is so upset by that. And I think that there's much better ways to spend your energy than ranting about that kind of stuff on LinkedIn. So I feel bad for this person that they're so upset by this, and I hope that they're able to grow past that. So yeah, I would say that yes, that's probably LinkedIn lunatic. So the comments are interesting. They're fun. I'll read them. Asterisk, old man yells at cloud. Could it be that he graduated without loans because in 1975 it cost $5,350? In 2019 it was $69,000 when you include room and board. Even with inflation factored into costs, it has gone up immensely. Yeah, college has gotten expensive. Why would a fully retired person even be on LinkedIn? I'll give him a pass on that. So gay people can't be male over 40 who paid for their education. Also, people who were born in 1982 turned 40 this year, so while he is technically over 40, it's a bit of a misleading category here. Some of these are a little bit more vulgar than I'll read, but yeah, I feel bad for this person that they get so spun up about that. All right, next one. I'd love to see the follow-up. This is by Ken Chang. I want to connect with you emotionally. Okay, are you being okay? So this that description of his job title being "I want to connect with you emotionally" makes me think this is satire. Oh wait, it is satire. It's literally tagged satire. Okay, again, sorry guys. I prepped this a month ago and I'm kind of winging it because I'm in the middle of packing and I need to pack this room. Sorry. All right, Ken Chang says, a very clever thing in our applicant test for joining our company is at the end of the questions we ask them to predict the result. One man, candidate A, we'll call him not his real name, scored 70%, but predicted he got 98% at the end, which was a vast overestimation. A woman, candidate B, no relation, only got 66%, but she predicted she got about 58%, a slight underestimation. A worse result, but a more accurate self-assessment. Who did I hire? Neither. A third candidate, candidate C, achieved a score of 10%, a score he then predicted dead on. If you think the most important facet of all else is knowing your own ability, more important than competency, showing up on time, and not doing drugs in the office toilets, I think the most important facet above all else is knowing your own ability, more important than anything else. Candidate C clearly knew himself, so I hired him even though he was definitely on a drug. I can't wait to see how he does when he starts on Monday. Hashtag employment, hashtag hiring, hashtag skills, hashtag psychology, hashtag exams. Okay, so I'm actually going to say yes, Ken is a little bit of a LinkedIn lunatic because he's trolling on LinkedIn. Now, maybe this is not a real account. Like, maybe Ken is just a troll account, but if this is Ken's actual account, I think Ken's going to have difficulty finding a position with posts like that on his post history. I get it. He's making fun of people that are making stupid posts on LinkedIn, just these long stories that are separated out like this into one paragraph, then another paragraph, then another paragraph, then another paragraph, and have a bunch of hashtags at the bottom. I get that Ken is making fun of the other LinkedIn lunatics that are just trying to be influencers on LinkedIn and spamming people with stupid, cringeworthy stories. But Ken, you're not going to get a job with the word that I couldn't read on my podcast on your LinkedIn. Like, I mean, maybe you will, but like, it doesn't help. In my opinion, it doesn't help. So, but this candidate C sounds like a terrible employee. Sounds like a terrible employee. They had 10% non-drugs. So, Ken, I appreciate the satire. Maybe save that for your Reddit account or your Twitter account, but I wouldn't personally post that on LinkedIn. What do the comments say? The comments say, lucky that they clarified that candidate A was not their real name and that candidates A and B aren't related. A top quality post, anti-lunatic. They had us in the first half, I'm not going to lie. Again, this candidate A, candidate B, candidate C thing is a very common format of the LinkedIn kind of influencer made-up stories that I spam your story with. So kudos to Ken on that, but come on, man. You shouldn't be putting this on your LinkedIn. All right. Well, that was LinkedIn Lunatics. Let's take a quick little pause. I'm going to drink some water because I was coughing earlier, and we will get into the next segment of the podcast. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my phone and I'm going to tell everybody that this episode of the podcast is live and that they need to start engaging. This episode of the Go on Facebook. All right. All right, and I'll post on Snapchat real quick. Check out Facebook for a live episode of Engineering Success. All right, folks. Well, we'll see if anybody joins our live stream. Currently, we got 0 folks in the live stream, but that's okay. Rome wasn't built in a day, is my excuse. All right. Well, I'm going to insert an ad break there in the audio podcast. And so now I'm going to reintroduce myself back from break and then go into the next section of the podcast. All right, guys, we are back. That was LinkedIn Lunatics. I hope you enjoyed a nice little ad there. And now we're going to go into the rest of the podcast. This one is, I tagged it as good news and advice. That was one of those recurring segments that just hasn't really stuck yet. But I like this one. This one, we were talking about internships. This person said, their title of their post, and this was on our engineering students. They say, stop complaining about your internship not being hard or challenging. They go on to say, engineering internships aren't necessarily about challenging you as an engineer. They're mainly to see if you're someone they'd like to work with. Your degree is proof that you can do the work. The remedial tasks ensure that you are willing to work and do anything necessary. Real-life engineering isn't always about designing fun projects. Sometimes you have to do the remedial tasks, such as paperwork and boring Excel sheets. Lastly, the arrogance is crazy. To think that you have all the tools necessary to be an engineer straight out of college or midway through is insane. College is more of a general studies for your engineering discipline. Once you come out, your hiring company will train you to use their tools and methods. Just learn everything you can during the internship. You may think you're not doing enough challenging work, But there are definitely ways to church up what you've done when it comes down to filling out your resume. That's true. With the correct wording, you can make your remedial tasks sound impactful. Honestly, hiring companies won't believe that you did any groundbreaking work during your internship anyway. That is true. So I think that this is a good bit of advice. I had an internship myself, and I'd say that it was a really good experience. Was the work that I did during my internship the most intellectually stimulating work? Was it more mentally challenging than my heat transfer class or my fluids class or my senior design project? No, it wasn't. But I learned a lot from my internship. This person talked about sometimes you have to do the remedial tasks such as paperwork and boring Excel sheets. My internship taught me the importance of those tasks and how to manage focusing on those tasks and budgeting my time so I would do those things and not be bored out of my mind or get distracted while doing those things. And then the arrogance bit, unless you're in a startup environment, when you're working for a large company as an engineer straight out of school, you're going to learn a lot from your company, and they're going to know what they want you to do. They're going to have their own systems, their own methodologies. So once you come out, they're going to teach you a lot of things you know how to do. And in your internship, you're going to learn all those things, but you're not going to learn everything that you're going to do in the job. So yeah, I think this person gave some great advice. It's really important to just learn whatever you can. And yeah, you might not think that everything you do is super challenging because you've done something more difficult in class, but an internship is about getting experience and showing that you're a hard worker and you're somebody that can be an employee of that company. So do what you're asked. And if you're not having enough to do, then ask for things to do. And if they're not giving you things to do, create things to do. And do all those things with the best attitude you can, show up on time, and be just a good employee, a good coworker, and you'll leave your internship with a good experience. I know it's July, people are finishing up their internships right now, so keep up the motivation, keep up that attitude, and keep up that dedication, and you'll have a great end to your internship experience. All right. Well, we actually have some people in the chat, and they are getting engaged, so look at that, guys. One little call out and you got people engaged in the chat. So people in the chat, if you have any comments on any of these questions, feel free to give your comments down below and I'll try to inject them into the podcast. The next question is from RCS Career Questions, Computer Science Career Questions. The title is, I may get fired for being too quiet in meetings. And they say, does alcohol or drugs help? Project manager wants me to talk more, but I have nothing to say, probably because of my social anxiety. We have another meeting tomorrow. I have never tried alcohol, but I'll drink 2 beers. We'll see how it goes. Okay. I'm going to go with a no on the alcohol and drugs during work. This sounds like a terrible idea. This is a really bad idea. I would say alcohol and drugs during work do not help. Drinking 2 beers, especially if you've never tried alcohol, this has to be like a meme post. This can't be real. But I'm going to treat it like it is real because that's how we do it here. So I may get fired for being too quiet in meetings, and your solution is to drink alcohol while on the job. You say that your project manager wants you to talk more, but you have nothing to say, probably because your social anxiety. What I would do if I was in your situation is I would start taking really good notes. So if you're not taking notes already during these meetings, take notes. And maybe even volunteer to be the person that takes the notes for the meeting. So in a lot of my meetings, if there's not anything else being shared on the screen, I'll have a draft email in response to the meeting up with my notes. I'll be taking notes throughout the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, I'll give an outline. At the end of the meeting, I'll take action items and do a recap. And that's one of the ways that I inject myself into a meeting whenever I'm not maybe necessarily the focal point of the discussion. Because the people that are having the main discussion, they're going to want to focus on the discussion. So if you don't think you have as much to say, you can help out by helping run the meeting by taking notes and action items. And then the other thing I'd do is, while you're taking notes, be thinking throughout, even if you're not necessarily the one that's the lead that's supposed to be responding to questions, be continually thinking at the same time how you would respond to those questions, and thinking about how other people are answering and responding to questions, engaging and saying, oh, how would I have said that the same, or how would I have said that differently? And that might help you then eventually work up the confidence to be a more active, vocal participant in your meetings. But I would say adding substances to encourage yourself to be more participant in meetings is just not a good idea. And I think that making yourself mentally a more active participant through taking active notes and using strategies on how you evaluate how other people are speaking in a meeting is a much better route to go to make yourself become more engaged in meetings. And if for example, if you're meeting virtually, if you have your camera off, maybe turn your camera on. But yeah, no alcohol and no drugs as a way to be more active in meetings. Let's check the comments on this one. I'm curious what people had to say about this. Sorry, this post has been removed by the moderators of our CS Career Questions. Moderators remove posts from feeds for a variety of reasons, including keeping communities safe. Top comment was, I strongly advise against this, but if you do it anyways, please update us with the results. And then someone said, all caps, do not get drunk for your first time for work. And this other person said, yeah, what helps is preparation. Look over your agenda or any other documentation so that you can come up with questions or comments on your own time before the meeting, rather than feeling pressured to come up with a question or a comment on the fly when the discussion is taking place. So do your time. And this person prompted another great idea. If you're coming into the meeting and you're looking at the meeting time, like, what is this about? Reach out to the meeting organizer and make sure that, hey, how do you anticipate me engaging in this meeting? What are you expecting from me in this meeting? And that'll help you prep for meetings as well. All right. So that's some much better advice. So I'm glad I included that. I'll say one more bit of advice. I'm going to steal from somebody else. They say, play it like bingo. If one of your questions is already addressed, cross it off the list. If you think a point hasn't been fully answered, feel free to revisit it to get that last bit of juice out of the orange. So if people are discussing something and you don't feel like they've gotten to a full resolution, feel free to bring the conversation back and point out why you didn't feel like there was full resolution. And then the worst case scenario, this person says, is that on your bingo card, if everything else gets checked off, then it's a successful meeting in your eyes. But if something's missed, then you had the opportunity to come in with your questions and contribute to the meeting. So shout out to Harbinger311. I think I've given them shout outs before. They give some great advice in response to these questions, and shout out to them. Also shout out to Dylan Alexander in the chat for saying that I give great advice. Thank you, Dylan, for your engagement. And there's your shout out in the podcast. Yeah, we got a couple people live in the chat. All right, next question is, does life get easier when you graduate? Because so far for me, I've been noticing that the older you get, the harder life gets. And what I'm hearing from students that are in higher levels of engineering, it doesn't get easier. I'm still in first year. Does it get easier when you graduate, or is it always uphill? So let's start with college. I would say that engineering coursework in college gets incrementally more difficult. And what I mean is that each class that you take is building up off of classes that you've already taken. So yes, the material might have been difficult when you learned it the first time, but theoretically you've learned it and now you're going to go apply it in the next class. So yes, your coursework is going to get more difficult. Now your course load, that's up to you. What kind of schedule are you building for yourself? But your coursework itself is going to be generally more challenging. Obviously, professors influence that, and the style of the class influences that, and how things are graded influences that. But again, concept-wise and content-wise, things will build on one another and get more difficult. Now for life. Let's talk about life generally first, and then let's talk about engineering first, and then I'll talk about life generally. Because I'm super qualified to give advice on life generally as a 25-year-old. Yes, I just turned 25. I would personally say that my work experience has had more balance than my student experience. I'd say that I have had more free time, just to the nature of the job that I've selected as a working engineer, than I did whenever I was in school, because it just you had 15 hours in class and then another 45 hours, 15 times 3, 45 hours plus outside of class spent studying each week, and then cramming for exams, and also being so close to all my friends and wanting to have all those social engagements at the same time. College was just really busy, and my professional life has been busy, but it's definitely not been busy or chaotic to the same extent that it was for me in college. And I'd say that my work-life balance is significantly better than my college life balance whenever it came to managing college as a full-time engineering student and being involved into my extracurriculars, and also, maintaining my social life outside of that. So I would say that life, balance-wise, if you pick the right field and depending on the job you work in, should get a little bit easier whenever you become a employee. Now, there are going to be extra pressures. In college, it's pressures for the grade. But in your career, it might be pressure for your livelihood, pressure for providing for a family, or pressure for delivering a massive project on time. There are different types of pressures, but again, generally, first of all, you're getting paid, but then generally, if you're working in a healthy environment, then you're able to have some kind of balance with your work. Now, does life get easier when you graduate? Does life get harder the older you get? I'd say the older you get, and this is something I'm experiencing as somebody that's 25, the older you get, the more responsibilities you take on in life. Some people might be, when they turn 26, paying for health insurance for the first time. Some people, when they graduate from college, might be living on their own completely for the first time, or living in a new city by themselves for the first time. People that graduate from college generally are older and maybe more likely to be in a position where they're getting married and adding a partner into their life, or adding an animal or a kid, or complexities with friends and family health issues, and keeping a household together. There are just more, as we get older, there's just more, life adds more complications. So does life get easier when you graduate? Life gets different, and you accumulate different responsibilities and different problems and different things. So I wouldn't say that life just generally get easier. I mean, there's a quote. What's the quote? There's a song by the Fools that goes, "Life sucks and then you die." And I'm not saying that life sucks, but just, at all stages of life, there's different challenges. And depending on the discipline that you have now and the decisions you make now, they will influence whether or not your life gets extremely more difficult when you get older. So I'd say, the older you get, the harder life gets. Life just gets different when you get older, and you have different challenges and different problems. But, you keep working, keep grinding, and you'll be able to create happy experiences for yourself. Wow. So I am not qualified to have answered that question, but I did. So those of you in the chat, let me know how I did. Let me know what you would have said, and maybe I'll rope those things in later in the podcast. But, All right. Next question. By the way, people that are listening to this podcast just listening to it on a podcast provider, they're probably going, why does he keep on referring to the chat? Yes, the podcast is live. We're trying it. We're going to see how it goes. So you better like it. All right, next question. This is on our engineering students. Question is titled, "Is research just as good as an internship?" And they say, "My friends have been getting internships for this summer, rising juniors in civil engineering. I applied to many, but never got a word back. I eventually was asked if I was interested in research with my professor, and I then took the opportunity and stopped applying to internships. I'm starting to feel weary about my decision. Is research good like an internship?" All right, this is a common question, and my answer is, it depends. All right, so let's say, is research better than not doing anything at all? Yes. Is research really good, especially if you want to go to grad school? Yes, it might even be better than doing an internship. Now, if you're trying to get employment working for a company and your only experience is research experience, it will not look as good for an internship. So I'd say you're a rising junior. This is great. You're going to get this experience with research under your belt. Work hard, get that under your belt, and then next summer, when you're a rising senior, you'll have this on your resume, and your resume will be more attractive than other people's resumes that had no professional research or work experience at all applying for internships. So get what you can out of this internship. Research, if you want to work in the field, work in industry, no, research isn't as good as an internship, so maybe avoid doing research next summer, but leverage this research experience into an internship for next summer. And you're going to work hard for this professor. You're going to get a letter of rec, maybe a referral, a character reference that you can have whenever they're interviewing you and evaluating your resume and your application for your next internship applications. But yeah, do this research and then get that internship for next summer. And then that's the most important summer for getting an internship, because if you get an internship with a large company with a structured internship program, likely they're going to be able to send you a job offer after you complete that internship. That's usually the pipeline. Summer before senior year, internship into offer, and then maybe you can spend most of your senior year with a job offer under your belt. So I'd say don't feel weary about your decision. You're a sophomore. The summer after my sophomore year, I was working a golf camp and taking summer classes to work towards my econ minor. And I would say that if I had done research that summer, it would have been a much better experience for my resume. So you're doing better than me. I was able to get an internship summer after my junior year, and now I work for that company. So you're doing all right. Before we go to the next question, we got a question from the audience. What kind of keyboard are you using? I am currently using an HP model KBIM. Just a standard little keyboard that my company issued for me to take home, and it's connected to my computer. Or maybe this is my keyboard. I don't know whose keyboard this is, but it's in my house, and it has some shortcut keys for play, pause, stop, volume up, volume down, cut and paste. And yeah, it's a nice keyboard, nothing fancy, but I like it. All right. Next question. I graduate in December 2022. Should I start applying for jobs in June? I just started my summer internship, so my resume is up to date. I don't know when exactly to start applying. I've heard from some saying June is too early and others say June is too late. Thoughts? Okay. I'd say now, yeah, go ahead and start applying. The best time to start applying for jobs is right away. And if you're graduating in December 2020, unless you're probably wanting to start work in maybe January or February or March of 2023, if you're December of 2022, you want to work, February, January, March of the next year. Yeah, especially for companies that are planning ahead and they're looking for December 2022 graduates, then you can definitely get yourself early in the pipeline or directly in the pipeline by applying for jobs now in June. And what I do is definitely on Indeed or on Monster Jobs or on LinkedIn, they'll often say, when we're trying to hire. And also they may say college hire, and you can look at college hire applications and they'll say, hey, expecting college applications graduating XYZ. And those are the ones you might want to start focusing on. And what I did is I kept like a spreadsheet of all the different jobs I was considering with like links to them and whether or not I applied to them and where I was at in the application process. And I would do the same thing if I were you, and go ahead and just start collecting them all, copying them over into your spreadsheet, and then just mowing them down one by one. And what you can do is just flag, anticipated college hires for college December 22 grads in one column or not. Apply for those ones first, and then start applying for the other jobs that are just random postings, because a company puts up a posting, they hire somebody, then 3 months later they need to hire somebody else for that position. Well, they're going to look at all the other people that have already applied. And so if you go ahead and apply now, not the same level of traction that you might get for applying for positions specifically for people whenever you're graduating, but it'll get you ahead in line and get you a head start whenever it comes to getting in the application process whenever they have another opening for the same position. So I'd say go ahead and start applying for jobs whenever you can. Just keep on applying. It does not hurt you to apply, and you might find that your application gets better and more refined as you go throughout the process of applying now and then continuing to apply over the next few months. Because surprisingly enough, it takes a long time to hire somebody sometimes. Like sometimes, the time frame between putting up an application to actually an employee starting without any delays by the person by asking for a later start date, it can take upwards of 3 months because they post the position and then they have first round interviews and maybe they have a panel interview and they give the panel team a couple of weeks to give them feedback from the panel, and then once they get all the feedback, then they go rank people and then they decide who to give a second round interview to, and maybe that's another 2 weeks later. So there's a month right there. So now you're from I'm in July, so you're already in July, and then maybe in July they decide to do a second round interview with maybe somebody that works in that department. So and then that takes another month, and then maybe they'll have you come in for a site visit for an in-person interview, and that takes another month. The next thing you know, it's October, and you're looking for a job in the next few months. So yeah, I would say it's never too early to start applying. Go ahead and start applying now. So I wish you the best of luck. It's July now. December's coming around, so I hope that you are excited to graduate and excited for work. All right. Here's one. This one's interesting. Was this post taken down? It was not. Okay. Engineering students, did you put your dating life on pause during your studies? I'm going to just share the screen for this one. I've noticed probably the biggest reason why I've been behind in life financially and never achieved goals was because I was constantly chasing tail, this girl, that girl, and always partying. I'm 28 now in my second semester of computer science, and I still chase girls like it's a priority. And as of last week, I realized this is why I've been doing poorly in school, because I've been prioritizing dating life over my studies. All the energy and time I put into chasing women should have been invested in my studies. I realize this now. I need to develop more ambition, put the woman on pause, and double down on school. Can anyone here share their experiences? Did you put your dating life on pause too? So, I did not put my dating life on pause. And I met my wife while I was a student in college. We dated for 2 years while we were both college students, and then for another year and a half or so, another year and a half or so of her either being in a master's or her just starting a job, and then we got engaged about a year and a half after that year and a half ended, and now we're married about 5 years after we first started dating. But again, 2 of those years were while we were both in undergrad. And I think it's possible to have balance in life. This person says, I met my partner in school for engineering and we're doing pretty fine. This person said, just know there's a clear difference between chasing and actual dating. Sounds like you've been doing the first, which will in fact wear you down more than having a real dating partner, i.e. somebody who can be an emotional, physical support at times. The first usually involves spending a ton of time and effort at parties, like you've mentioned. So yeah, if you're going out to clubs all the time, just trying to meet people for a short dating experience, then yeah, if you're constantly going out to clubs and stuff like that. But if you're dating, just having balance, letting a relationship come to you, but maybe not constantly spending time out and spending money out, trying to have short dating relationships, then yeah. This person has a really good piece of advice. Nope, dated 3 people in school, also OP. Things will get a lot easier for you if you start treating and talking about women like they're people, like I've had to edit your post to read, and not objects with a person attached. yeah, once you have that balance and also that level of maturity and the type of relationships they're pursuing, I mean, you can also maturely pursue long term relations with people, but and graduate with an engineering degree. That's also possible, by the way. But no, I didn't have to put my dating life on pause. I just had a decent balance while I was in school. This person said, I don't want to pontificate, but calling it what you called it is awful. If you find a partner this person saw, they use a 3-letter word that starts with A just to describe butts, for chasing butts. They say, I don't want to pontificate, but calling it chasing butts is awful. If you find a partner that you respect and likely it'll not wear you down, that party lifestyle is just not sustainable. Plus, drinking and constant hangovers will induce some kind of depression in the long run. I've been in a relationship for years now, and it helps keeping me focused, honestly, keeping friends, company, and family that you want to be around you, which you don't have to chase, and that there's a mutual respect is best. Yeah, again, I found I found my partner while I was in engineering school, and I didn't have to put that part of my life on pause. So, yeah, I think that with a little bit more balance and maturity on how you treat women and how you treat relationships, I think you'll be just fine pursuing relationships while pursuing your engineering degree. All right, but yeah, I wouldn't call it chasing butts because women are more than what is attached to their rear end. This is just a weird question, but I'm afraid to look at this person's Reddit history to see what other kinds of questions and things that they did. They tagged it rant/vent, by the way. Come on, man. Okay. Next question. What are some extra courses/training that you took that helped your career development? Hi, so I'm trying to take some extra courses, ideally low-cost ones that would help with my career development. I've been looking at the likes of Google's project management, etc., but I'm wondering what were people's experience with doing extra training outside of work. My manager won't let anyone be better than him, so if we ever put in a request for training, he will swamp us with work so we can't attend. Okay, first of all, your manager sounds like they suck. Maybe you should let their manager know that they're preventing you from being able to do training to improve yourself. And maybe their manager can give them some constructive feedback about employee development. Because training is important. And if you can present value attached to your training, then they should have no reason other than budget to prevent you from doing it. So this whole bit where they will swamp you with work so that you can't attend because they don't want anybody to be better than him, that is toxic as all get out, and that is not what you should want in a manager. So, what the heck? All right, so let me do my quick little Toastmasters thing, and then we'll move on. So, I spend like $40 a year on Toastmasters. That's what I do for my training. It helps me with my public speaking. I also do this podcast. It also helps me with organizing my thoughts and doing public speaking. So, if you think that you're a good communicator, you can be a better communicator, consider Toastmasters. It's super cheap, and it's a great way to become a better speaker. Next, does your company have a subscription to any training, online training? So my company has like an online learning platform that we have access to. And maybe your manager hasn't told you about it because they don't want you to do it, but I'm sure that your company might have somebody that in either HR or maybe your company's big enough that you have a training and development department. But if you reach out to those departments, they might be able to connect you with online resources. So, for example, my company has access to an online learning platform called Lisa Online Training. It's called, no, I can't remember what it's called, but we have like a whole profile, our company's own website, and then it has links to all these different places where we can get training on like project management, like you said, and stuff like that. So maybe your company has that, and likely if they do, it's free, and likely if they do, then you can do it on time at work. So I would look into that, and then another thing if you don't want to spend any money, I would say, maybe look at YouTube. YouTube, there's plenty of cool courses. If you look up the topic that you want, then you might find like college professors that have posted their lectures on YouTube, and you might be able to see things that way and learn that way. But I'm not, the best advice, because my company has a platform that I use, but Skillshare is one that I hear advertised a lot. I don't know if it's any good. I'd be curious to know. Let's see what everybody else says. Everybody else says if you can get student licenses of softwares, spend some time in Fusion 360. There's a free Fusion 360 license where you can practice your finite element analysis. That's kind of cool. Another person said taking classes, continuing education courses from your local engineering department, which actually prompts me, depending on what kind of engineer you are, ASME, mechanical or electrical, you can join your local chapter of like ASME or IEEE, and they'll have speakers come and give presentations to the local chapter meetings, and oftentimes they'll also have continuing education courses, with those chapter meetings. So that's another cool way to practice, continue to learn by joining a professional organization. This one says, Get Things Done. It's a book. That's kind of cool. The best classes I've taken have been soft skills stuff, in particular classes on risk communication. And they said classes taught by Vincent Cavello. That's kind of cool. Book reading. So that's what I would have to say, is join a professional organization where you can kind of practice and learn and stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to steal Charlie Work's answer. They say, to be honest, I'm an engineering manager and I know people like your boss. That sucks. Trying to be as good as you possibly can and making visible accomplishments sounds like it'll be nerfed by your boss. So put letters behind your name. So get your PE license, get your MBA, get your PMP. They say it's shallow and you can have all three of these and still be a crappy engineer and employee, but having them, it may be just a couple of emails with directors and VPs copied before people start to wonder, why hasn't this engineer been promoted? So, I don't think it's that difficult to get a PMP either. And you'll learn through the process as well. So, and then you put stuff behind your name as well. So that's not a bad idea either. Cool. All right. So I've been actually considering getting my PMP. All right. Next one. It's one of those posts. It's one of those "Do you agree?" posts, which is the type of post you see a lot on LinkedIn, posted by LinkedIn lunatics. But here it is. Do you agree? The advantages of working as a civil engineer. Green, a lot of money. Purple, psychological comfort. Black, good reputation. And as you can see on the pie chart, none of those colors are represented, except for green as a combo of yellow and blue, and purple as a combo of red and blue, and black as a combo of everything. Okay, so I would say that civil engineers don't have a bad reputation. Also, maybe you're not making a ludicrous amount of money depending on the type of job you have as a civil engineer, but you make good money. And then I don't get the whole psychological comfort thing, but maybe somebody that's a civil engineer that listens to the podcast or is in the chat could enlighten me a little bit on what kind of psychological discomfort that civil engineers experience. But, civil engineering is a great career. And I don't agree. You get good money. You don't have a bad reputation. I'd say that civil engineers have a good reputation. It's a good career. And I can't comment on the psychological comfort. But somebody did say, with that last statement, I agree for sure. It's definitely a no one notices until it breaks kind of job. Okay, so maybe whenever a bridge collapses and they blame all the civil engineers get upset. I don't know. I'm not a civil engineer, but I thought that was funny. I respect civil engineers, and I work with a lot of civil engineers, and I think that, You can make good money as a civil engineer, and you can have a good reputation as a civil engineer. And I know plenty of civil engineers that have a good work-life balance in their job. So I don't get why this person is saying this. So I disagree. And that is why I put it on the podcast. All right, next one. How many more questions do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my goodness, 6 more questions. All right, sorry guys. It's been a long time since I made a podcast. So you know what? I'm going to go one more question and save the next 5 questions for a bonus pod. How about that? I'll make a bonus podcast because it's been a while since I posted an episode. This person says, I have a serious problem. Okay, or Oki. I spell it O-K-E-Y. Oki. So I am a gap year student and reapplying this following round. My quote-unquote friend, who's a rising senior and also looking forward to apply, read some of my essays and said they were stellar. The problem is, when I sent them the Google Docs, they copied-pasted them into theirs and told me they will use them. Skull emoji. Firstly, it's my work. It is so selfish for anyone to label another one's hard work as theirs. Secondly, I feel so betrayed by this because I trusted this person more than anyone else. The thing is, I was planning on reusing them for some universities, and they said they will apply with them to the same universities I applied to this year. Do colleges in the U.S. notice if someone plagiarized from a past applicant? Even if they got in or didn't get in, should I email them or just let this person do whatever? I don't know what to do. Honestly, please help. Okay, this is on R applying to college. So first of all, you did quote marks around friend, and I think that was accurate because I don't think a real friend would do this. So first of all, I'd talk to this quote-unquote friend and say, hey, if you were my friend, you wouldn't copy my essays and steal my essays. And I am going to use these essays for my applications. And if you use my essays for my applications, then first of all, you are not my friend. And second of all, because you are not my friend, and again, this is a decision you have to make, but this is what I do. Because you're not my friend, I don't care. And remember, I've already applied to these universities with similar essays. So whenever I send in my application with revised versions of the essays I sent them last time around, which remember, I didn't get in last time, so good on you for using stellar essays that I didn't get in to the university with. Thanks for stealing them. So whenever I send in upgraded and modified versions of these, again, previously failed essays to the university, and then also send a note to my admissions counselor saying, hey, FYI, XYZ person has also applied to the university, and I sent them my essays so that way they could help me proofread my essays as a friend, and they turned around and decided to use them for their application. Whenever I tell them that, then they will know that you stole my essays, because again, they can check that in their system, because they've already seen my application before, and then you will not get into the university because you plagiarized in the application process, and that would violate their honor code. So, what do you want to do? So again, this is like hardball with your friend, and that's what I would do. And yes, this is a serious problem. First of all, you have a crappy friend, or as a person, or your friend is a chasing butt. As a callback to a previous question, just remove chasing. Your friend is a butt. And somebody else earlier in the podcast used a 3-letter word for that. You said you trusted this person more than anyone else. That sucks. That really hurts. And I just feel so bad for you that you've been betrayed in this way. Let's see what everybody else had to say about this. Everybody else had to say, you learned a hard lesson about high school seniors and trust. Not much you can do except to speak with your high school counselor if you attended the same high school. It's not merely selfish, it's unethical, and can get people rejected from colleges if the colleges were to find out. It is possible for a college to use for plagiarism checkers. Same goes for Reddit. PSA, do not give your essays out to unverified posters or people online, or post them on the internet, lest they be copied or otherwise find their way into a plagiarism checker. People do come to Reddit and to other applying to college platforms to steal essays, and unsuspecting seniors come here all the time asking for an internet stranger to read their essays, but it's a bad idea. Person said, I got into this university, but I'm not going because of financial issues. They said they will use the same essays that got me in to apply for it. I don't want them or me to get in trouble. I'm honestly so lost in time. Okay, so you did actually... Okay, so scratch back the part where I said your unsuccessful essay. It sounds like they were successful. I'm sorry for talking about them in that way. They were wonderful. But this person is behaving very horribly, and they don't deserve to get in. And it's possible that an admissions officer could remember your essay from last year. But and you said they're smart enough. I don't think they will apply to the same universities. I thought you said they are. Okay, now I'm confused. But yeah, I would warn them that they will get rejected for plagiarism, and academic dishonesty is a huge no in the college world. It is. What I do is, if you're applying to the colleges, yeah, apply early. Do not wait for the deadline to come, and email your admissions officer that you're applying early because a quote-unquote friend is displaying unethical behavior after they gave feedback on your essay. That's great advice. And that's the route I would take. Similar to what my original advice was. My original advice was super spicy, but now I know new information. But yeah, that's what I'd do. And your admissions officer, they should be receptive to you reaching out to them and say thank you. Thank you for reporting unethical behavior. And yeah, you can even tell them, hey, look, this is my story. You can interview me. You can talk to me. This is my story. And you can even talk to XYZ University. They admitted me with these essays because it was my story. Yeah. So I wish you the best of luck. That sucks that somebody took advantage of you. And I wish you the best of luck with getting into your universities. I hope there's an update there. All right, so that was this episode of the Engineering Success Podcast. Stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and shut off this episode of the podcast, and then I'm going to record the bonus podcast for the 25th episode of the Engineering Success Podcast, so you have more content to listen to while I'm in the midst of my move. But thank you for listening to this episode of the Engineering Success Podcast. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, send your questions to engring.success@gmail.com. Keep your eyes peeled for our next interview, and support the podcast if it's within your means. I really appreciate your support. I'll check in with you guys later. This has been episode 24 of the Engineering Success Podcast. Signing off. Thanks for watching this segment of the Engineering Success Podcast. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. All those things really help me out. They boost me up in the YouTube algorithm, and they'll help other people see this great content. Make sure to recommend the podcast to your friends. You can listen to it on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts content from. And make sure you leave me 5-star reviews, like all my videos, and consider subscribing on Patreon or Anchor. All those things help me out, and I really appreciate it. Catch you in the next one.
Losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Engineering Success Podcast. And I got all this set up, and then I realized that my microphone needed to be toggled. So I'm going to fix this, and then I'm going to restart. I don't know why I didn't do this, but I guess that's the fun of doing things live, right? All right. And... oh my goodness, I can't believe I didn't do this. I had it, and then it moved, and all the time it took me to set everything up, this all moved on me. But, that's showbiz, right? Oh my gosh. Alright. Are we here? Oh my gosh, it keeps moving. One sec. There it is.